Hey everyone, welcome to Mountain Beast Mysteries. This is probably the most controversial piece of footage I filmed over the last year and a half. This footage was shot back in May 6th, 2023, and it was the last thing I filmed in the city. I don't actually live at this location anymore. I'm not even in the city anymore. But this was the last thing that I filmed before I left. And when I was outside, I was sitting out on that top floor patio. I didn't even know that this thing was there for the longest time until I noticed there was something in the clouds that looked like a bit brighter than any other part in the sky. Like, it didn't look like a light, but it looked like a faintly brighter spot in the clouds. And I'm like thinking to myself, is that something? Like, is that one of these things that I've been observing all this time? Or is that nothing? And I just kept watching it. And then eventually it started blinking and moving and doing the things that you see in the video. A lot of times it'll blink into existence, blink out of existence. It'll shoot off in certain directions. It'll do the same movements over and over again. It'll go through different colors like blues, greens, orange, red, yellow. It'll go through these colors in a certain order, and then it'll stop, and then it'll do all the colors again really, really fast. And then it'll shoot off, and then it'll do like circles or lines across the sky, and then it'll appear. And sometimes it would reverse direction, and you can see that happening in the footage. But this thing was dead silent, and at times, like, it'd be moving so fast that you can almost barely see it. Like, if you look in these shots here, I'm just gonna play a series of shots. You can see how fast it would move sometimes. And in these shots, in some of them, you can also see that it would split into two different lights. Like, it would be two different objects, and they'd be moving side by side. So I'm not sure what the deal is with that. If it is one object that can make itself appear as many, or if it's actually multiple objects, I have no idea. But this thing was in the sky from, like, I don't know, I think I started filming it around like 11:30 at night, and then I saw it to as late as like 3 a.m. It was out there for hours. This was also shot on a different camera than in my last few videos. All the 4K stuff I filmed was on the Panasonic G85, and before I was shooting on that G85, I was shooting on an Olympus EM10 Mark II 1080p camera, and this shot was filmed on an older Sony NEX5N camera, just a 1080p camera with a TT Artisan 50mm f2 lens, so there's no image stabilization. I was shooting it wide open at f2, and this is what I got. That NEX5N camera and all those older Sony NEX cameras, they're so small. If you put like a manual prime lens on them, they're just a really nice pocket camera. You can see how small it is here. It's just nice to have in your jacket pocket if you're out at night, if you're not really planning on doing any filming, but you want to have a camera just in case for, you know, whatever you might see. That's a good camera to have. So that's what I was shooting this video on. You can see obviously the quality's not as good. The low light performance on that camera sucks. But it shoots really nice video in the daytime, especially with that 50mm f2 lens. I was basically fighting to stay as stable as possible with that camera, and it was really hard. Plus, the footage I have, I filmed over half an hour of footage in total, and holding your arms up for that long, even with a little camera, is surprisingly hard. So it got even more difficult as time went on to keep the camera steady. A really weird thing that happens in this video is that you can very faintly see in two different parts of the video that the light will zip into frame, and then it'll stop and disappear. And when it disappears, you can see a really faint ring of lights appear. There's probably like 6 or 7 lights or so that appear in a circle around where the light was. And it happens a couple times in the video. You can see here, this is the first time it happened. Look really closely, you can see very faintly there's a ring of lights that appear as the center light disappears. And then the center light will reappear, and that ring of lights will disappear. So it happens earlier in the video, and then later on it happens again. You can see this is the second time. It's a bit harder to see in this footage, but you can very faintly make it out. And you can see I kind of enhanced the contrast a bit, so you can see it a bit easier. It's still kind of hard to see, but it happened multiple times. I do also have a link below to the full clip, a video I made earlier in the summer showing all the footage I shot in entirety. That link is down below in the description if you want to check it out after and go through everything. And, you know, you can pick it apart as much as you want. In that video, people were saying, oh, this is a spotlight. There's an airport or something like that. If this was a spotlight, you'd be able to see an actual beam coming from the ground. Like, there'd be a beam coming from some sort of origin point. You wouldn't just see light in the sky, a light on the clouds. You would see it projecting from something. You would see a beam of light. It's the same kind of if you're pointing one of those laser pointers up at the sky, you know, you'll see the beam of light. You still will see a spotlight. Like, a spotlight is bright. Especially one that's meant to be at like an airport or something. That was something people were saying, like, oh, there's an airport. Well, this is downtown Edmonton. There's no airport here. I don't live there anymore, so I have no problems telling you guys where this is. That apartment building you see is called The View. And on the other side of that apartment building is like a multi-level parkade for the Edmonton General Continuing Care Center, which is on the other side of the parkade a little bit further. So that's where it is. You see The View, then on the other side of that is the parkade, and then there's a street, and then on the other side of that street is the Edmonton General Continuing Care Center. And I mean, you can go there. Like, I can't stop anyone from going certain places. You can go wherever you want and investigate, but I guarantee you will not find a spotlight. There's no helipad at that hospital at all. You could go there 365 days a year. Like, go there every night and try and see this in the sky. And I promise you that you won't, because there's no spotlight. The nearest hospital with a helipad for landing, and I don't even know if they have a spotlight, is the U of A hospital, the University of Alberta Hospital, which is in the complete opposite direction on the other side of the North Saskatchewan River. So it's a little ways away, but there is no spotlight in this location. There used to be an airport in kind of the downtown Edmonton area back, I think it closed down in 2013. There was like an Edmonton Municipal Airport, and it was in the Kingsway area, but it closed down back, I'm pretty sure it was 2013 it closed down. So there's no active airport in that area at all. The Edmonton International Airport's not even like in the city. It's south of the city by Leduc. But yeah, it's not a spotlight, I promise you. You can't see the beam from a spotlight. In the entire length of the video, you will not find a beam projecting from anywhere, which you would see if it was a spotlight. And sometimes it wouldn't even be like circling around the area. It would be moving in straight lines from like the south to the north. It wasn't always doing circles. It wasn't always doing the same thing. Sometimes it was just zipping across the sky, which would make it impossible to be a spotlight that was on the ground. Because, you know, there's these tall buildings like this apartment building that would block it. So, I mean, if it is a spotlight, it would have to be coming from the top of that apartment building, but you can't see a beam. Yeah, and that ring of lights, like, this is how I see it. And I feel like if that ring of lights was facing in any other direction other than towards me, it wouldn't be a circle like it is. In order to be a circle like that, it would have to be facing me. Because if it was facing in any other direction, it would be like an oval. You know, it wouldn't be a perfect circle. And I found that interesting, you know? When you take everything into account too, like I always say, all the different lights that I filmed and everything that was happening, you can't discredit this. Like, this is just as strange as everything else, if not stranger. Just the way it moves. Look at how this thing moves. Like, it's so fast, and it has the ability to just stop instantly. It's so precise in the way it moves. Sometimes it's so fast. Sometimes you'll see it in the video, and it'll be not as intense. Like, the light will be a lot dimmer. Sometimes it'll appear as if it's more obscured by the clouds, giving the impression that it is in the clouds at some times and not under the clouds. And it also splits into multiple objects at certain times too, at incredibly high speeds. What is this thing? What is this thing? There's some sort of intelligence behind it, obviously. Like, it's not a natural thing. It's something intelligent controlling it. Is it its own life form? Or is it a craft? What is it? Is it fully in this reality, or is it partially in this reality? Is it from here? Just another dimension? Is it from another galaxy? I don't know. But this was probably the closest anything's ever been to me, like, as far as proximity goes. This thing's very close, and it's the biggest thing. That's why I call it in the video the Mothership, because it's the biggest and the closest, and the most impressive, I think. And I observed it for such a long time. Like, I really got a good sense of it being there, and like, I don't know, usually when things like this happen to people, when they see stuff in the sky, it's usually very quick, right? They'll have an experience that'll be very brief. But with this, it was out there for hours. And sometimes I would go inside because I was tired of being outside. I'd go inside and relax, and then I'd go back outside and I'd look up at the sky, and sure enough, this thing would be zipping around the sky. So I don't know what it is. I don't know what it was trying to say, because it goes through the same motions over and over again, and the same patterns, the same pattern of lights, the colors. It's blinking in and out. Like, I wonder if it's trying to say something. I wonder if there's a message. And how is one supposed to find out what that message is, you know? I have no idea. I have no idea. And nobody else that I know of ever came forward with footage of the same thing. It's as if I was the only one who saw it. So, I don't know. And like I said, when I first went out there, it was so dim and subtle that I almost didn't notice it. And it wasn't until I noticed it and I like consciously recognized it that it started doing this weird stuff, which, you know, was kind of creepy to think about. It was just kind of lurking in the clouds before. So I don't know. And like, I always went out at the same time every night. Like, I'd go out around 11:30, and that's when stuff would usually happen. And it was the same with this. So I don't know. I think it's directly related to all the other stuff I was filming in the sky. I think it's genuine. A lot of people will argue with this one, and they'll say it's a spotlight or some sort of, maybe like a concert light or something. But that, like, concerts and shows and stuff don't happen in this part of the city. And if you're from the city and you know this part of town, you'll agree, like, where this is, like, that this light is not by, like, Rogers Place or anywhere like that. This is downtown, but it's kind of a quieter area of downtown, I guess. And you can go on Google Earth and you can find this place. Just search Edmonton General Continuing Care Center, and this is just south of that. So yeah, there's no spotlights in the area. There's nothing like that going on. The only thing that it could potentially produce a light like that would be someone on the very top of that apartment building. But I don't even know if anyone was actually living there yet. People had just started moving into this building, and at the very top of that building, the view, I'm pretty sure there's like a big, like, penthouse suite. So I don't know if anyone was in there or not. But even then, like, you would see a spotlight, you would see a powerful stage light or a concert light or something like that. You would definitely see it. And the time was weird because it was all night long, from like 11:30 to 3 in the morning. And maybe even past 3 in the morning, I don't know, because I'd gone inside then. I didn't stay outside till it disappeared. I went inside because I was tired of being outside and I wanted to go to sleep. Yeah, if you want to watch the video in its entirety, go to the link in the description, and you can watch the footage. and there's no music or anything over it. You can hear the actual audio. Sometimes I also wonder too, you know how they talk about this Project Bluebeam thing, like this fake alien invasion with like holograms and whatnot? What if this is one of those? Like, what if this is part of that? What if they saw all the other footage I was posting and then did this, you know, to try and trick me? I guess that's possible too. I don't know. From my perspective, based on everything that I experienced and by witnessing this thing firsthand, I of course believe it's something otherworldly, right? I believe it's a genuine UFO. I've had a lot of trouble with this one in my mind, trying to rationalize it, and it's been really difficult to do that because, you know, I saw it from more than just this one camera angle. I could see it moving across the sky in a wider field of view than what you see with this 50mm lens, which on that camera equates to about 75mm because it has a 1.5 times crop. But I wonder what this thing is. I wonder if it's a craft that's partially here in this reality with beings on board, or I wonder if it's its own life form of some kind. It's really hard to say. There's a lot of weird stuff going on in the skies, so go outside every night. Pick a time, go out at midnight every night for an hour, and keep doing that every night and see if you'll see something. It doesn't even have to be a clear night, obviously. A lot of this stuff happens on cloudy nights. Like, I feel like they'll use clouds to their advantage to almost hide in. You use them as camouflage. And you don't have to spend that much money if you want to start filming this kind of thing. You can get a decent camera and lens for like a few $100. And it doesn't have to be anything brand new either. Just something with a lens that can have a really wide aperture to let in a lot of light. And I like to use manual focus for this stuff because cameras don't do well with autofocus when it's really dark out. Share your thoughts in the comment section down below. Check out the video link in the description to watch the footage in its entirety. We'll see you next time on Mountain Beast Mysteries.